Test. Yeah. Hello. Let's give it another try, shall we? Hello. Much better, much better. Good afternoon. I hope you are feeling well. I hope you managed to have some coffee. I also would like to welcome our online audience, which I assume that they are already listening to us. It's such a pleasure to be here today. It's my second time actually here in Riga for the same purpose, for an eTwinning event. Last time was 2016. I suppose a few things have changed maybe a little bit. I don't know. Still beautiful. I hope everyone managed to have a nice flight, arrived on time, relaxed. If not, I'm sure you also have some moments during the event to relax a little bit. So it is truly a pleasure to have you here and to welcome you to this first day of our event. Now, my name is Ruth Batista. I didn't introduce myself. I work for the Central Support Service. I'm the Senior Professional Development Manager. Maybe you have heard of me. Some of you have heard of me in the past, maybe. But it is indeed an honor to prepare these events for you. It's an opportunity, and I hope you look into the participation in this event as such opportunity. It's an opportunity not just to attend an event and visit another city, but it is an opportunity to connect, to network, to build relationships. And it is not only, I suppose that you don't have that many opportunities to meet your peers that work with the same school level. We only have here teachers from early school, from kindergarten and primary education. So it is, I think, an opportunity to exchange, have ideas, build something together. So I hope you enjoy what we have prepared for you, and that you take these opportunities. Sorry, the slide should have been there already there. So I hope you take the most of these opportunities, not just the views and the coffee breaks, but also every workshop, every keynote that we have carefully prepared for you. Also during the workshops, you will see some papers in the tables, the coffee breaks, you will see some papers in the tables, read them, talk about them. It's on purpose, okay? It's not just meant to be there. It's on purpose so you can interact in a more meaningful way. Now, I would like to start the event asking, lovely, you're ready with your cell phones, lovely. What is eTwinning for you? And then we will look at the responses on the last day. Okay, so I'm not going to show now what eTwinning is for you, but I would love to get your view on this, and I would like also to ask the online audience to answer, and we will look at those responses on the last day. So I'll give you a few seconds. I suppose everything is working. Yes? Take your time. While you write down what eTwinning is for you, I would like just to mention that this is not just another workshop or another event. Maybe some of you had the pleasure to participate in other events, which is lovely. But as I said before, this is a moment to pause, reconnect, re-energize, and we are actually at a pivotal moment in education and training, and this is an eTwinning event, indeed. eTwinning is part of the European School Education Platform, and strongly connected with all the actions from the European Commission. And recently, it has been introduced, the European Commission introduced Union of Skills, which is a strategy aimed at addressing skills and labor gaps across the EU. And we will actually hear a little bit more about this. But the purpose of this event is to think about eTwinning and also how eTwinning and project-based learning can help and support the promotion of basic skills, the development of basic skills. So I hope we will have the opportunity to align our efforts with these initiatives and ensuring that we contribute in a meaningful way to the future of education and skills development in Europe. Sounds like a heavy task, but I'm sure that you are already doing it somehow, and it's just a matter of strengthening what you are doing. So let's begin our journey. I would like just to introduce the agenda of the day, and I'll come here so I can see it better. And well, we will start today with, of course, an opening, an official opening, and with two keynote speakers, speeches, where we hope to inspire you to then go to the workshops and have even more ideas and leave this event with very practical tools to implement in your classroom. Then we will have a break after being inspired, and we will stay here, and we will actually start our networking activity. This is a very, very important moment. It's not just for fun. It's really a key part of our event, so please don't run away. We will have the opportunity to run in the scavenger hunt, which is right after the networking activity, okay? And then we will be back here to have dinner. We need to be here on time to have dinner, okay? So whatever, if you need to run, run during the scavenger hunt, okay? But actually, I heard that it's a little bit cold outside, so maybe a quick run is not bad at all. So for our online audience, just a quick remark that after the keynote, during the break, we will close the streaming, and so the networking is just for you who are here, okay? Then tomorrow, of course, we will have our workshops, and these are also available for the ones that register to attend online. And on the last day, we will have, of course, another moment streamed to the online audience. But about that, we will speak later. Now, let's start our opening. And to open the event, I'm honored to welcome Riga from the Agency for International Programs for Youth in Latvia. It's the agency that hosts our national support organization, and she's the director, and we have the pleasure to have her here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Hut, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And it is indeed my pleasure to welcome all of you here in Riga and also online, and actually to use this opportunity to go straight down to business and to share with you today the story of how eTwinning has grown to be a remarkable success in Latvia, and particularly in our preschools and primary schools. At the heart of our education system is a clear and ambitious goal: to empower every young person in Latvia to become a purposeful and competent architect of his professional future and life. We aim to raise individuals who engage thoughtfully in society, collaborate meaningfully with others, and carry pride in being citizens of Latvia. In this pursuit, our education system is grounded in developing deep knowledge, essential skills, and forward-thinking attitudes that respond to the demands of a knowledge-based society. We strive to inspire innovation, responsibility, and passion for lifelong learning, traits that are vital for building sustainable and prosperous nations and individuals. And eTwinning plays a very powerful role in this mission. By enabling collaboration among teachers across Europe and beyond, it fosters creativity, innovation, and student agency. The core of every successful eTwinning project is collaboration, student empowerment, and the meaningful use of technology. These projects not only enrich daily teaching practices, but also lay the groundwork for active civic participation from an early age. In recent years, our national support organization has extended its focus to include students in professional development activities. Lower secondary education students are now creating eTwinning project ideas, while teachers support their initiatives. This evolving approach reflects our commitment to developing leadership capacity in our youngsters. Moreover, the Agency for International Programs for Youth, home to the Latvia's eTwinning National Support Organization, continues to bridge the gap between formal and non-formal education. We provide teachers with professional development in both curricular integration and innovative, student-centered methodologies. We also equip student councils with resources and opportunities to take on real decision-making responsibilities, encouraging students to shape their own school environment. Though population in Latvia is fewer than 2 million people, our presence in the eTwinning community is remarkable. Latvia boasts one of the highest ratios of eTwinning users per capita in Europe. What's more, nearly half of our 5,000 plus eTwinning projects over the past 20 years have come from preschool and primary schools, a statistic that defies expectations. Many would assume that eTwinning thrives mostly in secondary education due to language and digital skill requirements. But in Latvia, our youngest learners are leading the change. Last year, 30% of all applications for our national eTwinning awards came from preschools. These projects aren't just numerous, they're also high in quality. Latvian preschool projects have earned both national and European recognition, highlighting both the dedication of our educators and potential of our youngest learners. The eTwinning National Support Organization in Latvia has invested heavily in pedagogical and technical assistance for our teachers. From onboarding to project evaluation, we offer a range of professional development formats, online and in person, along with practical tools, tutorials, and support networks like ambassadors and mentors. This comprehensive support has fostered a thriving eTwinning community where teachers feel valued, motivated, and eager to collaborate. Recognizing the distinct needs of preschool education, we have launched targeted campaigns each year for the past 4 years. These campaigns focus on themes like independence building, emotional regulation, basic literacy and speech, and active citizenship. With 17 events and nearly 4,700 participants, these campaigns combine theory with practical tools to help educators confidently start their own projects, from planning and finding partners to implementing and evaluating outcomes. Teachers and pupils often begin their eTwinning journeys with small local projects and gradually progress to ambitious international collaborations. Some of these projects evolve into Erasmus Plus initiatives, proving that early experiences with project-based learning lay the foundation for broader school-wide innovations. Let me share a few examples with you. Priekuļu preschool Mežmaliņa, coming from a rural area, stands out as a model of integration across eTwinning, Erasmus Plus, and ECO-school programs. Since 2007, 14 teachers, including leadership, have launched 48 eTwinning projects. They've received 5 national awards and several European awards. Their projects cover diverse themes, from modern art to robotics, and reflect a strong emphasis on sustainability and active citizenship. And in Priekuļi, therefore, it is not extraordinary that preschool pupils meet with local government officials to address the spread of invasive plants, showing how even our youngest citizens can drive environmental action. Their most recent Erasmus Plus project, Find Your Way Through Clouds, in partnership with Italy, engaged 5 to 7-year-olds in exploring space and astronaut life. Through hands-on and digital activities, children built rockets, improved their English and ICT skills, and created a video story about a space-exploring rhino named Robert. The project was a national finalist in 2024 and received a special award from the National Space Learning Center. Another standout initiative is the Fairy Tale Unites Us project led by Koknese Primary School Development Center, again coming from rural area, involving students from Latvia, Romania, and Turkey. The project brought together learners aged 6 to 12, including those with intellectual disabilities, to explore fairy tales as part of their shared cultural heritage. Together they created finger puppets, performed stories, and produced a collaborative ebook and a calendar for 2025. And it's a beautiful testament to inclusivity and intercultural learning. But at Baloža Secondary School, we see how sustained involvement in eTwinning builds student leadership. A group of students who began their eTwinning journey in first grade during the COVID-19 pandemic recently earned national recognition for their international project, Positive Thought Cards. In collaboration with schools from Greece, Poland, Estonia, and Finland, the project promoted emotional well-being through mindfulness, affirmations, and gratitude activities. To sum up, these examples are just a glimpse into the transformative power of eTwinning in Latvia's preschool and primary education. At every step, the agency and national support organization are dedicated to empowering both teachers and students to lead, innovate, and collaborate. Through structured support, practical tools, and inspiring opportunities, we are shaping a generation of learners who are confident, compassionate, and capable of making a real impact, starting in the classrooms and reaching far beyond. And my colleague Baiba will be here today. And for our people listening online, our support service is available every day for further exchange of experience if you're interested, and possible contacts. And now I come to my final and perhaps most important feedback message to you as representatives of formal education system. And this feedback comes from the young people, our youth, and from the youth work perspective. This is the representation group that we are also working with in our agency. At each subsequent stage of life, young people reflect the experience, behavior, or action that they have previously had the opportunity to acquire and practice, especially when we are talking about younger age groups. And this experience shapes their perceived role in the community and society. And therefore, what youngsters plead for is not to underestimate the importance to create opportunities in school environment to practice cooperation, participation, involvement, leadership, and create positive experience for students. And it is even more important that students have supportive and understanding adults next to them, both teachers and leadership, who are clearly aware that acquiring and strengthening this experience, the process itself is at least as important as the achieved result. So to conclude, I believe that the highest degree of satisfaction in an educator's profession is to see the young person thrive. And educators have all the power to do that. So let us share our power as educators to empower the young people we work for and thus build our society together. Thank you, and have a very productive conference.
Thank you, Liga. And It is very nice to hear so many good examples of how eTwinning can support teachers and keeps supporting. Before giving the floor to our next speaker, I would like actually to mention, it's not just to mention, but we are at the 20th anniversary of eTwinning. And it is a very important mark. It's a very important year. I don't know, I would like actually to ask how many of you have been in eTwinning for more than 10 years? Do we have someone here? Oh, 1, 2, 3. Okay, some. Good. Very good. What about 5 years? 3 or 4 as well. Lovely. Wonderful. And who's totally new? Oh, it's a very nice mix. Very nice mix, I would say. That's very good to know. I have the pleasure to be in eTwinning since the very, very beginning. I was just talking to Baiba that I feel very old. But I have the pleasure to follow this journey for the past 20 years. And it keeps growing. It keeps growing because of you. So actually to now continue our conversation and our opening of our event, I would like to call on stage Amy Bournet from the European Commission, who will give us a glimpse of the European Commission action on basic skills as well, but also strengthen the support from the Commission to eTwinning and European School Education Platform. So Amy, thank you for joining us for the whole event, and the floor is yours.
Hi, so it's very difficult to follow all these very, very positive stories from Latvia. It's fantastic to hear it's such a success. I just want to thank everybody for being here today, all the Latvian colleagues for their support, the CSS for their support. So I'm here from the European Commission. As you probably know, eTwinning is funded by the Erasmus Plus programme, and I work in the unit on school education in the European Commission. So we manage the school part of the Erasmus Plus programme, but we also look at all the policies, the European policies that touch on school education. So this year in the Commission, we have a big focus on basic skills. It was part of the new political guidelines for the Commission. Because, as you're probably aware, we've got some ongoing issues in Europe. We have, oh, hang on, it's not, sorry, it's gone on my screen, but not up here. What's happened there? It's changed here, but hang on. Oh, no, there, okay, sorry. So we have a few ongoing issues relating to skills in Europe. So we have some skills shortages and gaps, so we don't produce enough skilled workers, both in quality and in quantity. We struggle, our education and training systems are struggling to keep pace with the changes in the skills that we need for the future world. And there's also lots of different stakeholders involved, which, yeah, it's making it very difficult to keep up with other big world economies. And we have, in many countries, not all, but in many countries, we're seeing a decline in pupils' basic skill levels. So to try and deal with these issues, the EU is proposing the Union of Skills package, which Ruth mentioned. So it's focusing on investment, adult and lifelong learning, retention of skills, and recognition across Europe of different types of training. It's based on 4 strands that you can see here, and the most important one for the group of people in this room is the first pillar, building skills. So this is where we have actions for school level on basic skills. Interestingly enough, the Commission has decided that has kind of classified that there are more than 3 basic skills, and I think this reflects also the way that the situation that we're in today in society. So we don't just have the classic basic skills of literacy, numeracy, and science, but we've also added the 4th competency of digital skills, because obviously going forward in the world, digital skills are very, very important. And we've actually added a 5th basic skill of citizenship, because of the environment that we're in today, where we've got this eroding trust in national institutions, the importance of young people needing to be aware of their democratic rights and being able to recognize the information that they're presented with, being able to recognize truth and not truth. We need to have young people growing up with a strong awareness of their rights in order to counterbalance some of these negative feelings in the world. And so the Commission wants to try and ensure that we raise basic skills levels across Europe. So this involves increasing increasing levels at both ends, so not just increasing the low performance and making more children achieve, but also in making the top students achieve their capacity, because we have a high level of underachievement, but we also have a declining level of top achievement. So to give you a little look at some of the figures, so you can see from these slides here that these are the PISA results from the 2022 PISA. So these show that approximately, for example, 1 in 3 15-year-olds struggles to understand and apply maths in real-life situations and learning environments. 1 in 4 15-year-olds fails to understand basic texts and apply simple scientific knowledge. And compared to other big economies like Canada, Japan, the United States, the EU has a lower top performance rate both in reading, science, and the second lowest in maths. So we're setting some targets that by 2030 we aim to reduce underachievement in literacy, maths, science, and digital skills to below 15%, and we want to increase the share of top performing students to at least 15%. Following on from that, we also have here a slide showing the digital skills. So this is based on the ICILS study from 2023, which covered 22 EU countries. So you can see in the chart that the yellow and the red bars show underachievement. So this is where students fail to reach proficiency level 2, which is a basic understanding of using a computer. So across the EU, 43% of 13 and 14-year-olds underachieve in basic digital skills. And in most countries, we're seeing a decline compared to previous years. And just to compare, we're well behind some of the best performing Asian economies when it comes to digital literacy. So the Commission, as part of its action, has just adopted an action plan on basic skills, which is aiming to improve results across the 5 basic skills that I've mentioned. We want to improve the success of pupils, their educational outcomes and well-being. The better they do in school, the happier they are at school, the more likely they are to go on and have successful careers, successful lives. We want to do more to support you guys, to support teachers. We know that a good teacher with up-to-date skills, who's happy in their job, who's motivated, is more likely to have pupils who come out who do well and who achieve. We also want to do something to enable a more supportive environment, so involving parents, families, and the wider community in children's learning. For learners, concretely, some of the actions that the Commission is going to be implementing is a basic skills support scheme. So this will be a scheme funded from the Erasmus Plus program to try and help underachieving children and young people. So there are some measures that we're looking at the moment. It's still being worked out, but some of the measures we're looking at are about early identification of children who need extra support, putting in place more specialist roles in schools, supporting parents and working more with the community. Also putting in place potentially national targets, obviously together with working together with member states. And the funding that will come from Erasmus will help schools and other partners to start designing and testing some new teaching practices that can perhaps help students struggling with basic skills. We also plan to implement European School Alliances, again through the Erasmus Plus program. These will support schools to work together on effective basic skills teaching. As part of this, we also plan to develop guidelines for curriculum development, particularly for early years education, to support the acquisition of basic skills early on. For teachers, some of the initiatives are here. The most important one, I think, coming up in 2026 is the Teachers and Trainers Agenda. So this, we know that across Europe we have an aging teaching population, we have problems with teacher retention, we have problems with teacher recruitment. The Teachers and Trainers Agenda aims to try and put in place some measures to improve the working condition for teachers, to improve the training and career prospects of teachers. The aim, we know we really need to do something to improve the attractiveness of teacher careers and to improve the sustainability. We need to attract more teachers and we need to keep them in their jobs. So part of this is where the platform in eTwinning will come in. We will be having more professional learning opportunities. We want to work on more materials and resources to support basic skills teaching. And we plan to support more eTwinning corporations around basic skills. There's also going to be a pilot for a mentoring system, potentially through eTwinning, to support newly qualified teachers to implement basic skills teaching in their classroom. And lastly, there are some actions proposed also to involve the community, to create supportive environments. I think the most new one here is the Literacy Coalition, which we started using Erasmus Plus funding. So this is trying to mobilize public and private groups together with schools to raise awareness about the literacy crisis and encourage young people, particularly boys, to read for pleasure. So that's just a little summary of what's going on at Commission level. It's a lot. We have lots of new things coming, and the platform is supporting a lot of these. So we have, so far this year in 2025, focused on basic skills for the first 4 months of the year, and we have 2 more months coming up. So you'll get the slides afterwards, but I've put links here to all of the resources that we've published. So far this year, we've looked at active citizenship, critical thinking, maths last month. This month, we're focusing on literacy. Then we have science, and then digital literacy. We also have some upcoming webinars to support these themes. I've put the links here, but just to say that we have a webinar on reading fluency and comprehension, looking at strategies to improve pupils' reading fluency. We have a webinar on how to balance the traditional reading with interactive possibilities of digital tools. That one's on the 30th of April. And then starting on the 5th of May, we have a webinar series on empowering struggling readers. And that's a webinar series, so if you follow the 2 webinars and the mandatory activity, you can have a certificate that you can use for your professional development credits in your home country, hopefully. We also have some online courses, and the online courses here, I've just put a link to the main part of the platform where you can find them. But just to say that if you don't have the time to follow the online courses at the times when they're running, all of the courses are available for self-paced learning afterwards, so you can come and have a look at them in your own time. Oop. And then I've just put some links on the end, but just to remind you that we also have some eTwinning featured groups on basic skills. I've put the links here. And also, if you aren't yet signed up for our newsletter, please sign up for the newsletter, not just for the eTwinning newsletter, but for the platform newsletter, because in the platform newsletter, we publish twice a month an update with all of the latest resources and also all of the latest professional development opportunities for you. As I say, for the first 6 months of this year, we're focusing very much on basic skills. So I think there are lots of relevant materials there for you. And then lastly, I just want to wish you a happy event. I want you to all enjoy yourselves, get to know each other. Don't hesitate to come and talk to me if you have any questions. I'm not an eTwinner, I'm not a teacher, but I've been working in Brussels in the Commission for 20 years, but I have family members who are teachers and I have children, so hopefully I can have something valuable to give to some of the networking sessions as well. So. Yeah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Amy. I think it was a great way to start, to set the tone for our event. At least, I hope that you have the same impression. Well, we do have a lot of work to be done today. So with no further ado, I would like to start introducing our first keynote of the day. And so it is now time to know what is the point of learning. Our first keynote speech of the day will hopefully enlighten us about this curious question. And for this, we have invited Ginta from Latvia, and she brings 19 years of experience as early years teacher, specializing in working with children aged from 2 to, sorry, I was not seeing this slide, age from 2 to 6. And she has also worked as the International Primary Years Coordinator at the International School of Riga for the last 10 years. And throughout her career, she has developed a deep interest in how children learn. And she's also passionate about creating educational experiences to cater their development needs, and curiosity. Please, a big applause to Ginta. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation, Ginta. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Greetings to all the wonderful early years and primary teachers. As you heard, my name is Ginta Karkliņa, and I'm from the International School of Riga, the Primary International Baccalaureate Primary Years Coordinator. And a little background about our school, so you know when I have the quotes from children, why they are written the way they are written. I am from Latvia. You are from all over the world, Europe, different places. Our school is a little world in Latvia. We have students from this school year from 47 nationalities, and the language of instruction is English, but students who start our school, hardly any speak English when they join our school. So that's the background. So for several years, my job has been to help to support early years and primary teachers as they plan learning experiences for their students. But once upon a time, I was a kindergarten teacher, and that was before I took this role. And the lessons I learned at that time still shape the way I look at education today. One of the most cherished routines I had with my kindergarteners was reading to them every day. And I remember one particular day when I read a book about animals cooking a pumpkin soup. After reading the book, we discussed it, then we talked about our favorite foods, and I asked if students would like to cook something at school. Of course, they were so excited about that. And this is where magic began. We didn't just talk about cooking, we made it real. Now, we had to decide on what to cook. After much discussion, voting, and persuasion in between the children, 2 dishes emerged as 2 top contenders: pizza and ice cream. The final vote for pizza won by just 1 vote. Now we had to, what do we need to make pizza? I took a piece of paper and the children started brainstorming. As children named the ingredients, I wrote them down exactly as they said. So this is their list: flour, sugar, cheese, salami, apple, banana, pineapple, salati, which is lettuce in Latvian. Then I asked them if they need any tools. Of course they need tools. They need a fork, a spoon, a knife, and a rolling pin. The next day, I brought everything in a bag. We sat together, and as I pulled out things one by one from the bag, I took also the list that we had made the day before, and I checked things off to make sure that they have everything they asked for. They had. So the children took everything to the table and set to work. They poured some flour on the table and started rolling. But things didn't go exactly how they expected. It did not turn into a pizza dough. It didn't turn into a base for pizza. The children added more flour and rolled some more. They took turns. They encouraged each other. They added more flour and rolled harder. Still no result. About 15-20 minutes of hard work, they gave up, with one of the students stating, "We need a professional here." So what to do now? How to solve this problem? As we were still staring at the dough that wouldn't stick together, I asked, how could we make a pizza? The suggestions started rolling in. We need a professional. My mommy knows. My mommy also knows how to make pizza. How does your mommy know what to do? My mommy look in book. What kind of book? Cookbook. Is there any place where we could find a cookbook? Library. I had already talked to the library, our librarian, so she had, in a quickly, easy to find place, some children's cookbooks. So we went off to the library, that's not yet there yet, to cookbook, and then we found a simple pizza recipe, and the next day we succeeded. So during this conference, the focus is on project-based learning. The International Baccalaureate program, for the International Baccalaureate program, we work with the units of inquiry. Those are 6 to 8 weeks long transdisciplinary programs, transdisciplinary inquiries. But as I talk about this one particular unit of inquiry, you can definitely think about project-based learning, because approach inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, very similar. So, when I start planning the unit of inquiries, this for these next 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, first of all, I want to make it relevant to the children in my class. And what better way to make it relevant than to connect it to real life experiences? Of course, all children love to eat. They have cooked probably at home. They have seen definitely how food is made. They have helped their parents to cook, so that is relevant. But one of the most important things that I wanted to achieve through this activity was to keep students engaged. And engaged not just for this one little short period of time, but actually for the whole unit of inquiry, for those next 6 weeks. And therefore, I let them choose what they want to cook. I let them choose tools. I also allowed them to choose how to solve the challenges they faced. When children are given voice in their learning, when they have agency to make choices, then they become more invested in their learning. They are not passive recipients of information, but they are active participants in their learning. This is also what Amy said about the citizenship, right? We want really people who are active, who want to do, who make decisions rather than do only what they are told to do. Also, when I think about what kind of learners I want in my class, I know that I do not want students who just memorize and repeat what the adults tell them, because that's actually dangerous in this life, that people do only what they are told to do. I want students who are curious, who are eager to learn, who are able to solve problems, and who are able to think critically. So, in order to achieve this, I planned this provocation. I could have simply given them a pizza recipe and said, well, here we go, there's a pizza recipe, let's make it, let's follow it step by step. It would have been probably as engaging to students, but I bet there would be way less thinking, way less problem solving involved. Last Friday, which is a week ago, I listened to a webinar on conceptual learning in early years, and the presenter, Sean Walker, he was talking about the fact that we all know that children learn through doing. And what he said, he actually on the slide had like in an yin and yang sign, that his doing has to go hand in hand with thinking. So this really resonated with me and with what I'm trying to say now. So, but what was making pizza what I actually want the children to learn? No, that just gave a context for reaching learning outcomes in various subject areas. Pizza was followed by many other foods that required baking, freezing, microwaving, some just mixing together, so no cooking involved at all. So if we think about the basic skills and knowledge in all sorts of different subject areas, mathematics. So as they measured the ingredients, they also developed their understanding of volume and weight. They saw that measuring cups are much bigger than measuring spoons. They used scales and they saw the numbers going up or down. When they drew steps for their recipes in their own recipe books, or when they looked at the photos of their experiences, they practiced sequencing and recalling events. They counted cups and spoons of ingredients to get the right amount they needed. They worked on their number recognition skills as they looked for that right amount in the recipes. And they practiced writing numerals in their own recipe books. They practiced simple addition and subtraction when they took turns, and they counted how many spoons of needed ingredients each of them would have to add, especially when some have already added some. So in everyday life, children definitely will not remember exactly how many cups or spoons of flour were measured, but these experiences of thinking, of trying, of observing will stay with them. And they are developing those concepts, those understandings with practical hands-on experiences. They started to develop the concept of time as they waited for the food to be ready. We looked at the clock, we marked with a sticker where the big hand is, counted those little tiny lines which show the minutes, how many minutes we need to wait, and put a sticker there to see how long it would take. We took a sand timer, which was 1 minute, to turn it around and waited to see how long is that 1 minute. Telling time at this age is way, way too complicated skill. We don't even expect children to tell time at this age, but they can start understanding shorter and longer periods of time. Once it was time to eat what they had cooked, they learned how to share equally. As they cut some pieces, some foods into pieces, or passed cookies around, so everybody would have an equal share, they laid the foundation of later future learning of addition, subtraction, and even fractions. That seems kind of beyond them, but that's where the foundation starts, really through understanding. So this was just mathematics. Now think about science. What will happen if we add more flour? What happens to the dough as we knead it? What is going to happen? Why do you think so? Let's try. What did you notice? Did it happen the way we thought it would? Yes or no? Why do you think it happened like that? Let's record it so we know the next time. All of these are very important science skills, part of the scientific method. Making observations, formulating a problem to investigate, formulating a hypothesis, conducting an experiment, drawing conclusions, and recording the whole process. One of the many books that I read during this unit of inquiry was about children trying to bake cupcakes. One of the children in the book, as he added milk in a bowl for the batter, milk spilled and it added way too much milk. They still mixed it, they still put it in the oven. The cupcakes smelled nice when they were in the oven, but then when they pulled them out, they fell flat. This book led to so many what-if experiments. What if we added more eggs than the recipe says? What if we put sugar instead of salt? What if we took the cake out of the oven sooner or left it longer? So many hypotheses, so many observations, connections, and conclusions. And then there is science content. Of course, with my kindergartners, I didn't use such big words as states of matter, physical change, chemical change. But sure, they observed them, and they described what they observed. There was one moment during our pizza making project when a child asked, remember, when they first tried, it didn't stick together at all, it was just the flour. Why does the dough look and feel different as we knead it? It stopped sticking to my hands. This simple observations, this simple question led to so much thinking and talking about science behind bread making and how ingredients work together. This just shows how curious and capable our young learners are when we provide them with opportunities to explore and to question. Now, literacy. Strengthening those fine motor skills, hand and eye coordination is extremely important for the ability to write. Cutting, mixing, kneading, rolling, spooning, pouring. Imagine what greater way to strengthen those hand muscles. Then, as they follow the recipe, even if they don't read, they develop an understanding that written text conveys meaning. The teacher reads and points and then says what the words mean. They start recognizing letters, even some simple words. And some students who are ready to read can help the teacher. When the children record the recipes, they draw, they make marks, they use invented spelling, and also their emergent knowledge on phonics. The student whose writing is on this side clearly shows her understanding of writing, that writing conveys meaning. I cannot read it. Probably you cannot read it as well, but she definitely could. And when she read it again several weeks later, she read it exactly the same way. So she had the meaning behind it. Whenever she made those scribbles, she had the thought behind it. Being exposed to texts, seeing her classmates write, by the end of the unit, she already started making marks that resembled letters, and some letters in her recipe writing as well. So a lot of learning happening there. Will it stick? Will the children be able to apply what they learned? After all, that is the point of learning, right? To apply what we are learning. I always like to quote people who are much smarter than me and more experienced, and there are some great quotes that I chose for today. The great aim of education is not knowledge, but action. So actually what we do with that knowledge. Knowledge by itself, if it just sits in our heads, not much point of that, right? Education with application is just entertainment. Do we want to consider our preschools and schools entertainment? Definitely not, right? We want it to be something useful. And also, in the end, we retain from our studies only that which we practically apply. When children grow up, most likely they will be cooking some food, even if they don't recall all the specifics from when they were 5 or 6 years old. The skills and critical thinking will stay with them. They will keep using them. They may help their parents at home and while they are kids as well. In fact, parents of one student came to tell us that they had to purchase a waffle pan because of what they did at school. Their son wanted to make waffles at home as well. Real life for children, and matter of fact, us as well, isn't something that happens in the future. It happens right now. And for children, their real life is their play. As Fred Rogers wisely said, play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is serious learning. I did not have to wait long before pizzeria, a shop and a restaurant, popped at our classroom. For me, as a teacher, observing children in their play, seeing them incorporate in their play what I wanted them to learn is the best assessment I could possibly have. They are using what I wanted them to learn, not because I'm telling them, but because they want to. When children play, I observe them. I make notes for my future planning, And I also sometimes join them as equal member who enjoys playing with them, and at times I can enhance their play. So for example, when children invited me to their restaurant for lunch, I asked for menu. Right away, one student went to create it. Or, look at this play. Paula, as I said, many students do not have any English when they join, so at the beginning of the school year, she didn't have any English. And look at her story. Luckily, kindergarteners talk out loud when they play by themselves, so I can just sit and listen and read it and write it down. So the girls did make some cookies, and then a boy did come and said he wants to sell cookies. The girls said no, they are for sharing. Everybody have 2 cookies. Oh no, Hippo has only 1 cookie. The girls said, I make 1 more cookie. Now everybody has 2 and everybody is happy. So I can assess her language abilities, I can assess her understanding in mathematics as well. So importance of play cannot be overstated in early years. As I was listening to Amy, I was remembering the many research that I have read that actually the decrease in ability of students to perform in basic skills goes hand in hand with the decreasing of their playtime. Less playtime, weaker basic skills. So when children play, think of all the things that they have to do. They have to choose, they have to make choices, they make decisions. Who to play, what to play, where to play, how to play. If they do what the adults tell them to do, all they learn is how to follow directions. Once they have made their choices, through trial and error, they plan. Their plan is not like ours on the paper, but it's through doing. They cooperate, they make agreements, solve conflicts, they experience setbacks, overcome difficulties, they experience wide range of emotions. And when they finally follow through the idea, isn't that something that we want all of our students to do, to be able to follow through the idea, to bring it to some kind of conclusion? They succeed, they gain confidence, the sense of accomplishment, which lays the foundation for growth mindset. One more quote, which I find very powerful. The truth is that play seems to be one of the most advanced methods nature has invented to allow the complex brain to create itself. Think about that. So as a teacher, when I plan for learning, I plan for real-life application. And that means I'm also planning for child-initiated play. I plan the provocations to get them interested. I plan the learning experiences, and I plan their time when they could play by themselves. To be able to do that, myself, I need to appreciate their play. I need to understand that it is so important for them. It's part of their learning. I need to give them time and space. Plus, as a teacher, I'm the one who creates the time as a space, right? And then through whatever I provide for them, what materials I provide, this is how I get my teacher's agenda into the children's play without them even noticing that. Time is another very important aspect, and this is the explanation that I heard from another presenter, from teacher Tom. I had noticed myself that if the time is very short, then children just go wild and noisy, and they don't start the really constructive play. And if there is a longer time, then they become constructive. So the teacher Tom explained it. He said that the children need 15 to 20 minutes just to understand what they want to do, to make their choices. And then they need another 15, 20 minutes to actually engage in this creative play and constructive play. If we stop them during those first 20 or second 20 minutes, the children learn that there is no point even starting. And that is the reason they get noisy and wild and not productive. I learned in the hard way. When I was teaching, when I started teaching, I also was a teacher who thought I need to fill the day up to the brim with teacher-led activities, and this is what my class was. When all of a sudden, I realized that, oh, I don't know why, but I gave them a longer free play time, and all of a sudden, all my children that I thought didn't even know how to play were really working correctly, constructively. That was the word I was looking for. So, as we move forward, let's remember to value children's play, plan for real-life applications, create opportunities for children to solve problems, think critically, and make meaningful choices, develop their skills and knowledge and context that are relevant to them. And this is how we can really, truly connect learning to real world, by helping children make sense of their world and empowering them to shape it. Because education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. Thank you very much and have a wonderful conference.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ginta. I think it was just a lovely way to start our reflections. I must say that in my workshop, I'm going to use a lot of ideas from this keynote speech. We'll have the workshops tomorrow. And indeed, this is to inspire us to think maybe differently or to provoke us. So thank you for that. Well, I'm conscious of time, so if you do have questions for Ginta, she's going to stay with us for a little bit more today. Unfortunately, not tomorrow, but today she's going to be with us. So please feel free in the coffee break to reach out to her and talk to her and have more reflections. Let's now get ready for our second keynote speech of the day. It's Paula Welsh, and she's from Ireland, and she will reflect with us about enhancing digital competency in early childhood education and care through STEAM activities. Paula has worked with us already in some opportunities, some of the ones that Amy already mentioned, and she's a published author and assistant lecturer in early childhood education at Southeast Technological University in Carlow, Ireland, and a PhD candidate at the Dundalk Institute of Technology. And her PhD research is exactly on this topic. So, with no further ado, Paula, the floor is yours, and thank you for accepting our invitation to join us in this event.
Hi everybody, I'm delighted to be here. My name is Paula Walsh and I'd just like to thank the organisers eTwinning for inviting me. I was delighted to be invited, and anytime I get the opportunity to talk about STEAM in early childhood education, I am more than happy to do so. So today I'm going to talk about enhancing digital competency in early childhood education through STEAM experiences and activities. I won't go through who I am because you've already been introduced to who I am. So digital competence, so what is it? It's the confident, critical and responsible use of and engagement with digital technologies for learning at work and for participation in society. And along with numeracy and literacy and science, as we heard earlier on, digital competence is considered to be a basic skill that we all need. But why do we need to think about digital competence for children in early childhood? So I'm talking about 0 to 6 when I talk about early childhood education. Is it because screens and digital devices are everywhere? Shouldn't we be trying to reduce that for children? Well, digital competence is much more than screens and screen time. Digital competence is needed for everything. And as we know, early intervention is key with anything, so that's why it's so important to focus on digital competency with young children. So let me show you what I mean when I say it's so important. And I'd like to take you back to a cartoon that I used to watch when I was growing up in the 80s, called The Jetsons, and it was broadcast between 1962 and 1963. The Jetsons lived in space. We're not quite there yet. And they flew or they drove a flying car. Maybe not quite there yet, but who knows, we're probably not far off. They also had a robotic assistant in their house. And Mrs. Jetson here, you can see her video calling somebody. So they were well ahead of their time. And the remote control in her hand there is controlling, you can't fully see it in the picture, but at the bottom there, it is a robotic vacuum cleaner. So digital competence in early childhood education is important. When I was a child and I saw the Jetsons, I remember thinking, there's no way those things can happen. That is just like video calling. I remember distinctly watching the cartoon and seeing Mr. Jetson talking on a video screen, and a phone on a fixed video screen on the wall. And I remember thinking to myself, that's just too far now. There's no way that could be real. And here we are, you've all got one in your pocket. So if we think of children today, this is their world. Mightn't be a flying car, but they've electric cars. We have robotic assistants. Video calling is commonplace in the workplace and in the home. And you may even have a robotic vacuum cleaner. And that's just where we are now. So who knows where we're going to be when children in early childhood education today are adults. So digital competence is necessary in the 21st century world. But what does that mean for children to support them to develop their digital competence? Fostering digital competence in children needs careful consideration. They need more than just familiarisation and confidence with the digital world and digital tools. So the European Council tells us that children need knowledge and skills and attitude, and that it's important to distinguish between them to support their development of digital competency. Children might have the skills to complete a certain digital task, and we know children as young as 1 and 2 years old can work a touchscreen device with no problem at all. So we know that they have that skill. But they might lack the knowledge about the context and the critical approach to perform that task. And I think that is key. And where STEAM activities in early childhood can help, they can help children to develop all three. But really importantly, I think it's the attitude and the knowledge around what they are doing, why they are doing it, and that critical approach that they need, more than the actual, the skill to actually operate the digital device itself. And digital competency is much more than using digital devices. In fact, to promote digital competency through STEAM activities, which I'll go through some in a bit more detail in a few minutes, we don't even need to use digital devices to do that at all. We can promote digital competency in young children without any kind of screen or digital device. So what is STEAM? Well, you might have heard of STEM before. Maybe you haven't heard of STEAM yet. STEM has been around for a while, and it's science, technology, engineering, and maths. And then STEAM really is just the next iteration of STEM. It includes the arts as a fundamental partner within the STEAM area. So STEM activities give children the knowledge, the skills, and the attitude that they need to be digitally competent. And again, I'll show you that in a bit more practically what that means in a couple of moments. Now, there's many definitions of STEM and STEAM, but this is mine. STEAM is an approach whereby knowledge is intentionally combined from across 2 or more of the science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths domains. This combined and transdisciplinary knowledge is then practically applied to innovate, build new knowledge, and problem solve. So you can see from the presentations we've had already how STEAM activities are really, feed into and go hand in hand with project-based learning. But what do I mean by transdisciplinary? So if we think about a typical, what we would consider STEM career, we might think about an engineer, for example. An engineer maybe who designed that bridge there in the image on the left. Now to do that, the engineer doesn't just have engineering knowledge and skill. If you study for an engineering degree at university, it's not just, you don't live in an engineering bubble alone. You have mathematical knowledge to make calculations. There's some creative and artistic knowledge in the term relative to design thinking. They may have to use technology and software, computer-aided design. Maybe they 3D print a prototype. And they might have to consider science in terms of where is this bridge going to be? What's the environment in that area like? What weather will it be exposed to? So understanding the science of the world and the environment and the weather. So that's what we mean by transdisciplinary. When we're pulling on information and knowledge and practical skill from a number of different areas. Now maybe we work specifically in one of those areas, like here with the engineer, but we are pulling from all across the STEAM domains to actually do our job. And that's what we mean by transdisciplinary. Also, people tend to think of STEM and STEAM in terms of the STEM careers, the engineers, the scientists, the mathematicians, all of that. But also, if you work in the creative arts and if you are an artist, you also draw upon knowledge from across the other STEM areas to do your job. So if we look, for example, the image on the right-hand side, a sculptor has to make mathematical calculations. They have to be able to think about ratio and dimension and scaling something up to size or down, depending on what they're making. For somebody to make this statue here on the right-hand side of a person, they have to have an understanding of the science of the human body and the human form. And there's also engineering concepts there too. And that's before the sculptor uses their tools, which I'll talk about in a minute, and that would be their technology. And if I transpose that then onto children in early childhood education, what does that look like in terms of the engineering and the arts, similar to the examples I just showed? So if we think about a child building a bridge or a tower from blocks, they're being the engineer. They're thinking about height, they're thinking about amount, they're thinking about shape and size, there's design thinking, they're thinking about the science of gravity if it falls over, colour, the creative arts, pattern and symmetry, also feeding into early maths concepts. If we think of a child who's playing with Play-Doh, and we think of them as the sculptor, they're engaging in sensory play. They're thinking about the size of what they're making, the shape of what they're making, the texture of the materials that they're using. Maybe they make the Play-Doh from scratch, and similar to the children making the pizzas earlier on, they're problem solving. It's too wet, it's too dry. What tools do we need? So they're thinking about mixing and quantity and colours, shapes. If we think about the theorist Piaget and conservation and being able to conserve, children understanding that the Play-Doh, when I roll it out flat, is the same amount of Play-Doh when I roll it into two balls and make a person. They're thinking about the form and the attributes, linking into early maths, and they're thinking about mass and density and all those things. So they're being the sculptor and they're drawing upon, knowledge and skill from across the various STEAM domains. So those are two really probably classic activities that you can identify maybe from your practice, and they are STEAM activities through and through. So what's the value of STEAM in early childhood education? STEAM is more prevalent in educational policy and practice right from early childhood education to primary school and beyond. And we can see this in the EU Action Plan on Basic Skills and STEM Education Strategic Plan, where there's a focus on promoting children right from early years to develop maths, science, digital competence skills. STEAM and early childhood education, activities around STEAM and early childhood education support children to have agency, to be active participants in their own learning. It supports them to develop skills and dispositions to actively engage and have influence on their world now and in the future, including digital competence. It promotes citizenship, because STEAM activities, we can reflect children's lives and culture as 21st century global citizens. STEAM activities can give children the skills and dispositions to address global challenges, to build an awareness and foster empathy related to the Sustainable Development Goals, for example. And bringing STEAM activities into early childhood education can also help us to address the STEM gender gap. Research tells us that children in early childhood begin to develop a sense of their gender linked to ability at that stage. I don't have the piece of research cited here. I can't remember, unfortunately, the name of the researchers, but there is a piece of research that showed how children, by the time they're, 5 years old, there was a study done, and girls in that age group had started to associate mathematical ability as being more aligned with boys than themselves. And that's a really interesting paper. So I really feel that we need to bring more focus on STEAM into early childhood education to address that before children have developed their own sense of ability linked to gender, or inability linked to gender. We need to, while they're still in that phase where they feel that they can do anything, we need to be focusing on that to fill that STEM gender gap and to unblock the leaky STEM pipeline, as it's called. And also, a 2024 report from UNICEF talks about the digital divide being one of the 3 megatrends affecting children's lives, both now, today, and into the future. And UNICEF says that to be unconnected in a digital world is to be deprived of opportunities both now and in the future. So it's a big area that we need to focus on, and thankfully that is getting a lot of recognition across European and national policies and education plans. So when I think about STEAM to promote digital competence in children, STEAM activities help children to develop skills and dispositions which are vital to being an active 21st century citizen. So skills like problem solving, critical thinking, asking questions, challenging answers, hypothesizing and predicting, collaborating, teamwork, and innovation. And those skills are so important in today's world when we think about all of the misinformation that we're exposed to, AI and augmented reality becoming more prominent, and things like wearable devices in the future. We really need to think about children being able to critically think about all of this and being able to challenge and not take AI for granted, for example. But that's the future, for them. But what about now, their lives now, and STEAM activities helping them to engage and be active 21st century citizens right now? Well, if we think about how we spend money, for example, we're becoming much more, we're moving much more towards cashless society across Europe. So how we spend money has become completely different than how we would have learned about spending money when we were children. So we need to think about how we represent that in early childhood education settings. Children see money now as something that is spent digitally. Money is really, cash is no longer king, and money is a social construct, really. You know, the money you get paid into your bank account every month, does it really exist? Well, it does when it runs out, but, you know, it's not a physical, tangible thing anymore, you know. So learning about money and numeracy skills linked to money is completely different for children today. We need digital competency to take public transport. You know, we no longer have, a lot of the time, a physical ticket. We might need to buy the ticket online, scan a QR code, scan a barcode on a ticket. To take out a library book. Library books, you know, in my local library, all of the books have an RFID or radio frequency ID tag in the back. You know, you put it onto a digital pad, you scan your card, your library membership card, and it automatically, you know, checks the book out to you. So that needs digital competence. And as the previous presenter spoke about the fantastic learning experience of the children cooking food and pizza, it was a wonderful learning story. But if you think about even cooking food in the future, smart appliances, you know, they're becoming commonplace, and they will be, you know, in every child now when they grow up, their appliances in their kitchen are going to require digital competency to know how to operate them. So moving on a bit more practically then to STEAM in early childhood, and what does that actually look like? Well, STEAM supports children in experiential learning, so hands-on learning. So thinking about STEAM and constructivism, children making sense of their world around them, their 21st century world. And STEAM also is reflected in constructionism, so hands-on engaging in and having an impact on your world, which really links into that project-based learning, understanding the world and then hands-on getting stuck in and making a change, doing something, building something, creating something, solving a problem. And STEAM can be introduced through play in numerous ways. Through materials and resources, which don't need to be expensive, don't need to be digital, don't need to cost a lot of money. And also through language and interactions. So again, in the previous presentation, there was a lovely example of asking children those open-ended questions, prompting them to think and problem solve and come up with their own solutions. And if they were wrong, that's okay. That's all part of the learning process, and they can try something again and try another solution or another possibility. So through our interactions with young children, by bringing in STEAM-focused words, you know, which I'll show you an example of in a minute, you know, into our interactions, we can support children to learn about STEAM and to develop those skills and dispositions which STEAM activities affords them without any investment or money at all. But I want to address something that's always the elephant in the room, especially in my own experience, and as was mentioned at the start, I'm doing my PhD research on STEAM in early childhood education. And my research has really focused on supporting educators and developing appropriate training activities and materials to support early childhood educators to bring STEAM into their practice in an affordable and accessible way. But I started out my research by engaging in educators across Ireland to tell me about sort of the barriers and facilitating factors that were impacting their either current incorporation of STEAM or non-incorporation of STEAM in their practice. And something that comes up all the time is technology. We don't want to bring screens into the early childhood setting. Those 3 hours when the children are at preschool in the morning they were described by one educator to me as nearly been somewhat precious because it could be the only time that they have throughout the day where there is no device around them, you know. One educator said to me, Paula, the child is being dropped to us in the morning in the stroller by their parent, and they have the parent's phone in their hand. The parent then takes the phone off them, they come into preschool, and when the parent collects them 3 hours later, the phone is handed back when they're walking home. We don't want those 3 hours in preschool to be more screen time. And I completely understand that, and I'm a parent of 3 children, and the battles around screen time, you know, are ongoing. 3 teenagers, as I'm sure you can imagine. But in my book, and also in activities and training events that I hold for early childhood educators, I don't bring any screen-based digital devices along. I personally, you know, in my practice when I was an active early childhood educator, I would not want to have brought screen-based digital devices in either. And we don't need to do that to bring technology into an early childhood setting, and I'll show you why. So there's a lovely quote from Sharpan 2012 here. Technology is just a fancy word for tools. Adults tend to think of technology as digital equipment. But crayons and pencils are tools, so are rulers, magnifying glasses, scissors, zippers, and even dump trucks. If we think back over the course of time, the word technology was not just invented, you know, by Steve Jobs or anyone else involved in the sort of tech area. The word technology did not just come into our vocabulary when the internet was invented. Technology really just means an innovation, something that we as humans have created or invented to make another task easier. If we think back to the Stone Age and a stone spearhead strapped to the end of a piece of wood, that's a technology. That was an innovation. That was a great leap, technological leap forward. So when we start thinking about technology in that absolute broadest sense of the word, suddenly we can open up a world of possibilities for bringing technology into an early childhood setting without the fear of screen time or even the expense of digital devices. So I think that's really important. You know, and I'm not trying to demonize screens or anything like that. You know, there are obviously wonderful educational resources online. There are wonderful, you know, devices for, you know, that are educational for children. But I think in early childhood, we don't need to go there quite yet. That would be my personal opinion. But we can still foster all of those skills and dispositions that children need in terms of technology and digital competence without that quite yet. But there are other ways that we can bring technology in that is sort of true technology, you know, without screens. So, for example, we have a Bebot here, which, do any of you have a Bebot in your practice? Yeah, they're wonderful. So, and they're a wonderful way for children to learn about robotics, to learn about early coding skills, numeracy and maths, following instructions. You know, a computer code and an algorithm, all they are a set of instructions to follow to get a desired outcome. So, these kind of robotics that don't incorporate screen time, but are still very much a technology, you know, we can use them in our early childhood practice to great effect, and also help children to understand, you know, complex issues like artificial intelligence, for example. But what if we don't have the budget for that? You know, or what if we just can't, for whatever reason, you know, bring that kind of technology into our early childhood practice? Does that mean then that we can't explore the concept of robotics with children? And the answer, as you probably have guessed, is no. So, linking into the project-based learning theme, we could explore robotics and AI with children by designing and building junk art robots, using recyclable materials like boxes and foil and toilet rolls, inserts, you know, and then different things like buttons or any kind of shiny materials and bits of ribbon and cloth, anything, any loose parts like that. Children can design their robots, they can build their robots, we can ask them open-ended questions. What do you think a robot looks like? What do you think a robot sounds like? How would a robot move? If you had a robot in your house, what would it do? If you were a robot, where would you go and what would you do? Or you could play games like Follow the Code, similar to the Bee-Bot in the last slide, by simply maybe, you know, if it's outdoors, using chalk to draw coloured panels on the ground, or, you know, putting coloured sheets on the floor and having a code to follow, you know, 2 on green, you know, 3 on pink, that kind of thing, or bringing in left and right. So children being the robot themselves and following the code on the ground. And I spoke earlier on about STEAM words being a wonderful and completely free way to bring an awareness of digital content and STEAM ideas into our practice with children. So again, linking in with what was mentioned in one of the earlier presentations, not underestimating children, not thinking, well, you know, I think that word might be too complex. Because it isn't. You know, if anybody's had a 2 or 3-year-old child who's interested in dinosaurs, you know, they will tell you all about all of them, Tyrannosaurus and Diplodocus and, you know, Stegosaurus. As you can probably tell, I had a child who was big into dinosaurs, and all the names are ingrained in my mind. But it doesn't matter if they don't pronounce them properly. You know, they know them, and you know, and again, that knowledge sticks with them. But bringing in STEAM words, you know, like robotic, AI, automatic, program, sensor, function, coding, bringing them in to our interactions and our conversations in an activity like this with children. And just linking back to something then that I mentioned earlier on, representing the child's world, the 21st century citizens that they are. It's important that we think about that in terms of our resources and our environment in early childhood. So I spoke about how we spend money and the fact that, you know, if you're trying to support, I remember when I was in school and the teacher might talk about something costing, you know, €2 and you give the shopkeeper €5 and you get €3 back, and you can have, you know, pretend money in your hand, and it's a visual, tangible connection to the numeracy concepts that you are learning about. We can't really do that anymore, you know, because children are more exposed to money in the digital sense. You know, so we need to think about that. You know, do we represent money in a digital form in our environment, in our play resources? This was just one example of a play, you know, card, pin pad, and play cards for tapping and spending in a contactless way, the way children see money being spent every single day. And if we don't have the funds to be able to afford to buy a device like, well, it's a pretend, obviously, toy. But if we didn't have the money to invest in any more resources, well, if we have a shop area in our early childhood setting with a cash register with coins and notes in it, well, just print off a contactless icon and laminate it and stick it on the side of the cash register. Bring in some old gift cards. You know, the way that now the gift cards, if you get a voucher, they're like a little credit card. You know, when you've remembered to spend the money on yourself first, then, you know, bring it in, and the children can pretend that is, you know, a debit card. And I'm not for 1 second saying we should take the play, you know, cash out of the setting either, but we can use that tangible money to support children then to learn about how they're spending the invisible money, the digital money, you know, when they're paying contactlessly, by, in our interactions with them, talking about, you know, how much money is on your card? Do you know what €5 looks like? Okay, you've tapped it, your card, you've spent €3, so you've only got €2 left. That looks like this. You know, so we can use one to support the other. Okay. So just to come back then to sort of where I started around enhancing digital competence with STEAM activities for children in early childhood education. We can give them the skills, and they have many of them already, but importantly, we can give them the knowledge and we can give them the attitude to think critically, to problem solve, to question, to not be afraid to try and, for it not to work and try again, to innovate and to create, and, to think about their world and to understand their world, their 21st century digital world, so that they can be active participants both now and in the future. We can support children to develop their skills, the critical thinking and the problem-solving skills, as I mentioned, to build on their knowledge by representing their world in the early childhood setting, and to support them to be creative and innovative. And also to support them to foster a positive attitude towards digital competency, to support them to be resilient, to collaborate, to share ideas, and to be empathetic. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Paula. And for more information, for more exchanges with Paula, we will have the pleasure to have her tomorrow running some workshops. So she will be with us until the end of the event. So lovely to have her with us, and you'll have plenty of opportunities, I'm sure, to talk to her. So actually now I would like to say thank you to the online audience. I don't know if they can actually hear our applause, but maybe we can give them an applause. Yeah. So goodbye, and please reconnect with us at 9:30 tomorrow for the online workshops, or on Saturday morning at, if I'm not wrong, 10 for our program for Saturday. So thank you for the online audience, and let's continue then. Here, the streaming can stop. Just a note for the team, sorry.